Okay, I am here. Can you guys see me?
Hi, Edna. Hey, hey. Good to have
Hello, guys.
you.
Good to
Hey,
have you.
Susu.
Hey,
Why am I
hello.
too excited? I'm so glad to see you guys. This is
I am
crazy.
happy to see.
How is everyone doing?
It's
I
a
am
rainy,
fine.
it's a rainy Saturday here in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, dear me.
Oh, so you got the rain today. Yesterday it rained all day and all night here in Boston.
Oh, okay. I like the rain. It makes things cooler, and maybe the coronavirus might pass. So,
That's that's the that's the
That's a
worst
good
time
one.
actually. I feel like because it's so cold, it's so wet, viruses they just breathe in that environment. Or is it just me? I feel like it's bad weather.
No, because it's moist and then they
All
breathe
right.
and multiply. So I prefer it dry, honestly. I hate the rain.
Do you know
Nothing
what?
else.
Since this corona thing started, yeah, London has had the best weather ever. It's like a
Okay.
curse. The weather is good, but you can't go out.
I would say it's the same year. It's the same year in Texas. Last year, this time, I would say it was in the 90s and maybe hundreds. Now
Yeah.
we're still in the 70s. So that's good.
Oh my God. Texas is always really hot. Is that my
It's hot.
I am.
always ready? Well, thank you guys so much for joining this other podcast and videocast for PETV. I did have a flyer the other day on social media and it said, with the whole scare of COVID-19, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in a learning zone? Do you want to be in a fear zone? Or do you want to basically empower yourself and be what do you call it? I just want to get it right. And be in a growth zone where you're learning, you're understanding, you're empowering yourself, you're talking to people, you're sort of trying to create a positive ground where people have an overall understanding of what's going on. So I was quite impressed. I said there are things you never consider until you start doing. And for me, it's been the thing where I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be scared. As much as I'm very confident that I know what is going on around me, it's always good to tap in and sense check with your pals, like sense check with people, how they're feeling, how they're
Absolutely.
faring, and how we all think we can get through the COVID-19 pandemic. So today's topic precisely is how I did send you guys three core things that I wanted us to talk about. Did you all get it yesterday?
Yes.
Yes.
I did, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
did.
basically, we were saying that we want to know your initial thoughts about COVID-19, like when this whole thing hit the ground, like when the news became absolutely true, because a lot of people thought it was a myth. A lot of people are still based on conspiracy theories, and a lot of people still don't really know what's happening. I've heard stuff about 5G poisoning. So when the whole idea became tangible, became a fact that we actually are suffering from a pandemic, what was your feeling? What sense did you get? What exactly went through your minds? I'm just going to go through the screen and then remember to get my brother Patrick Hour as well on the phone. You guys take a minute and just talk me through how you felt. So I'll start with you, Susan. What was your sense, initial thoughts about, oh my God, we're dead?
I was like, holy shit.
Okay, you can
I
curse on this show, right?
was shocked.
Louder if
You
you
know,
can.
and all I said was, you know what, coronavirus? Thou are a bitch and you will never see the face of God. I was shocked to my bones, honestly, because I took it so lightly. First, I thought we were so strong, the immune system of Black people, it's never going to get to us. And then I thought it will be contained in Wuhan. And now it's everywhere. So to be honest, it was a shock for me. I just thought this is it. Maybe we all gonna get this and something is gonna happen. something terrible is going to happen to the world. And you can see how it's going. And it's scary. And I'm still very scared.
Which, fair enough, it's good to be. But I think education and information will make you less scared and move you from the scare zone to the growth mindset zone. And that's where I'm coming to you, Clarice. Tell me what was your sense of this whole pandemic?
The first time I heard of COVID, when they said in China, I was like, well, I'm not in China. We are not in China. So it's not going to, it's not going to come here. But when it became a reality that it's already here in the UK, and I got to understand exactly how it affects people, how it manifests itself, and symptoms, and the fear set in when I actually realized that it's something that it's a little bit like it's a bit like pneumonia. So which means it affects the respiratory system. So I quickly turned around and I looked at my son, my 14-year-old, and I said, oh my God, no. So I was shocked and in fear. I'm still in fear actually, but with more awareness, information, education, as you've said, the fear is a bit lessened, but I am afraid of my kids, especially my big boy, because he's got a chronic, he was born with chronic lung disease. So just a sneeze near him or a cough near him, he catches it. So so it's been that fear, though I'm trying to put it all together and minimize worries and anxieties which may set in at some point. So
with all the information that you have.
With all the information, yes.
So Clarice, you and I went through a phase where maybe for a week we almost had a heart attack because we got informed that both of us were at an event where someone had the virus, and so we had to get ourselves checked. And me and you were at that event here, and we were with that person.
And my son was with the person.
Exactly. So I was losing my mind on one side, and I rung you up and you were losing your mind. And that's exactly the moment it hit home that I need to educate myself and not just jump into panic.
Yeah.
So I can understand. Godfrey, I'm going to come to you. You are such an inspirational figure in the Cameroon community on social media. And I see your post, I see the stuff you do, but what caught my attention was what you were saying about COVID-19 about 2 days ago. So please tell us what initial thoughts before you get into the meat of it. What are your initial thoughts about this?
Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, everyone who is on this show. Basically, when I first learned about the outbreak, I'll not say I was afraid, I prayed. Because being a medical person, I knew where this was going. This is the first ever outbreak, that has gotten to the level of a pandemic in the era of social media and the level of globalization that we are in presently. So it happens that the COVID-19 is the name that we have given for the disease right now, coronavirus disease 19. The virus itself
sorry to interrupt, the 19 is for 2019.
For 2019, yes. So COVID is short form for coronavirus disease. The 19 is for the year of outbreak, 2019. The actual virus is called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. So we will talk about the myths associated to this virus later on. But from the name, SARS-CoV-2, you already know that this is a virus that belongs to a family of viruses that we already know. Coronaviruses, yes. So this just happens to be a pathogenic novel strain which is causing havoc. And being a respiratory infection, the rate of spread is so high. And my prayer was because I know how nonchalant African communities are when it comes to this, especially novel outbreaks like this. And it is ignorance that will finish Africa for us if we don't change our attitude.
It's so true, but it's so heartbreaking that we are helpless in the face of this disease, in the face of this pandemic. We are helpless to help our communities if we don't give them the right information, because we can't physically do anything. We're all quarantined, right? we're all locked indoors, we're all home. So we will be making all sorts of effort to say the right things when we are in the situation where our voices need to be heard. And that's why I was literally drawn to make this show and just ask the right questions, speak to the right people, and get the information out there. Yeah, I'm going to come to you, financial man. I want to know your take. Like, worst case scenario, are we all going to be, you know, in a recession? Are we all going to be like in another economic depression, which you will unpack later on? But what initially is your take about this whole COVID-19?
Yeah, again, Dorothy and everybody, thank you for inviting me to your show. Again, my initial thought about this COVID-19, it started like a joke, you know. I was more of like, oh, within a couple of weeks, you know, this thing would die down in China and stuff. Then I started hearing the amount of people that were dying in China. Then it crossed boundaries into Europe. Then we started getting a couple of cases here and stuff. The financial market was in turmoil. I'll tell you, from a personal perspective and from a financial perspective, the financial market will never be the same. Again, we have gone through this in years and we've bounced back, but it's going to take a long time to get back to where we were prior to this crisis. And from a personal perspective, it's personally a time for us to take a step back and reboot. And again, it gives us the time to kind of bond more with family, because from a family perspective, I was always out there, work, business stuff, getting myself in with social activities and stuff. This gives you a time to just sit back and reboot and get your priorities straight. So you guys know our president here in the United States have always been taking this as a joke. The amount of people that die every day here, it is so scary. I have a bottle of Kleenex and hand sanitizer in my car. When I get out, I don't really go out, but if I have to go out, when I get back into my car, I sanitize my hands, I sanitize my steering, I sanitize my phone. You know, I go around my neighborhood to jog. When I see somebody coming on the same footpath, I give some distance. I am telling you, it is so scary. You know, I don't know. Even if they come up with a virus, I don't know how people's gonna adapt back to their regular way of living. So anyway, we're gonna discuss more about this. This was just my mindset of what's going on.
Yeah. So we're all doing that sort of how will I call it? Subliminal messaging to humans, like to other people. Even in a shop, you go into a shop and you see someone and you go, hang on, stay 6 feet. It's almost like I should walk with a pole that measures 6 feet, and I poke people like, move, stay there, you stay there. It's crazy. But then we have talked about the way we feel. I'm gonna go to Patrick now. Patrick, you're gonna be just voiceover. I was listening to something yesterday because I am sniffing for information. I'm so glued to this thing. It's crazy. Someone was trying to inquire whether everything that we've done so far is going to bring down the hang on, you medical persons, help me here. Epidemiologic curve, right? So whether we're washing our hands, whether we're sanitizing, staying 6 feet, wearing the mask, has the curve been brought down? Will it be brought down? But also, it's going to happen probably in this part of the world. How can that curve be brought down in Africa?
In Africa.
So, Patrick, because you're off camera, I want you to get us into the meat of this for like a minute. How do you see this working? All of the sort of the advice from the CDC, all of the medical advice flying left, right, center. How is that applicable to our African communities?
Okay, are you getting me now?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. What I see concerning the advice of stay at home, wash your hands, that is not actually treatment. What we are doing is something like, let's say in your house, you have a supply of gas that gets into your house, and that gas, there's a hole on it, and the house starts burning because gas is coming from that house. And you call the fire extinguishers, and they are on their way coming. But you go now on the gas hose, and you hold it so that the gas, to reduce the rate at which the gas is coming out, so that the fire extinguisher, by the time they get there, they should still have some part of the house to save. That's what we are doing now.
Yeah.
We are trying to buy some time to get the researchers to see if we can get a vaccine, if we can get some drugs to help the remaining part of the people that will be left. That said, when this thing started, I immediately realized that we have been here several times. This is not the first time that we are having. This is not the first time that we are having a pandemic.
But not a viral. How do you call it? Pneumonia related, or sort of, you know, respiratory related pandemic.
How's Ebola?
We have had that. We have had that. The difference
really?
here is that this is the latest one to come when there is social media communication as much, and there are a little bit of differences, and which were my main point of interest. So knowing that we had been here before, I kept on asking myself that, what did we learn from the previous ones? What is different from this?
Bear with me. When was that?
It's not Ebola.
We are talking of the novel coronavirus.
Yeah.
We have had other respiratory viral diseases in that same class. You can still remember the bird flu just a few years ago. The difference between the bird flu and this one that I'm seeing now is that the bird flu was not as infectious as this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But was the bird flu human transmitted? Because I think with this COVID-19, they found out about midway through February that it was human transmissible. All along, China hadn't really clearly stated how this is infecting people. So at what point, I mean, bird flu, was it just birds? Just talk about it slightly in that depth, compare the two.
Yeah. So the bird flu was able to get from the birds right to humans. But also, if you expose yourself with somebody that was sick, you would have still had it. But at what rate? It wasn't as infectious as this one. This one is infectious more than the previous one. The chances that you will get an infection if you are working in the same office with somebody that has it is very high. But with those other ones, that rate was lower.
All right. Okay.
Secondly, another difference that we noticed, that I noticed, was that this one started mutating very fast.
Sorry, I missed that. It started with what?
Mutating, changing.
Mutating. Okay, yes.
Mutating.
Yeah, because one thing that predicts whether we will be able to combat it and send it into history like we did with the other ones is whether we can actually pinpoint the enemy and destroy the enemy. But if the enemy is changing every day, we destroy this one, another one that looks like the enemy and is also hurting us is already there. And we now have isolated up to 8 different strains of COVID-19. And that's my fear, that the vaccine that was being developed in the lab, is this vaccine covering all these strains, or it's covering only the first strain that was isolated?
Yeah.
If it is covering only the first strain that was isolated, then we still have a very long way to actually cover all the strains that are disturbing us.
Thank you so much for that, Patrick. I kind of feel like there is a lot of jargon, like medical jargon, around this virus that the layman would not be able to understand even if we try to explain it. So I was listening to Bill Gates the other day, and a couple of people were more or less saying that he has a way of predicting things, you know, saying things that were like, he's guessing, he's trying to predict that, oh, this might happen, but we're just saying be careful. How come he was able to talk about the coronavirus years ago in a TED talk, and it turns out that it's happening now? So a lot of people are not very happy. A lot of lay people are going, this is a conspiracy. Like, nothing you guys tell us makes sense.
Okay, when I was in school, one of our infectious disease professors, when he was trying to tell us that we should be cautious in the way we recommend and dispense antibiotics because they are being used in ways that resistance are developing, and he cautioned that he cautioned us and he reminded us that the rate at which bacteria are becoming resistant to drugs is more than the rate at which we are producing new drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that if it continues on this way, the next few generations after us will be wiped out by bacteria
infection. I see. So there is,
because the bacteria have become resistant to all drugs that we have had. That's a prediction that he is seeing a trend and he predicts it. So the only way to revert that trend is for us to be more proactive and produce more new antibacterial medicines that are not resistant to, that these bacteria are yet to be resistant to. If we don't do that, that's his prediction, sooner or later will come and it will beat us hands down.
So basically, Patrick, basically what medicine is doing, they're doing like a modeling. They're modeling, building predictive models based on the behavior of bacteria or of certain types of strains of bacteria against a type of medication and stuff like that. Godfrey, do you want to add into this? Because I know this is sort of your area. Do you want to add some beef to the sense around the predictions that we have had and we're here now and it's true?
Sure. Yeah, when we were young, you realized that all the medicine for malaria that you used when you were about maybe 5, 10, right now we no longer have them because the plasmodium that we have now is resistant to them, and new ones have been produced.
Yeah.
If we did not produce new ones, we would have been helpless in the face of
malaria
now. And if somebody made such a prediction, they would say that he had something to do with it.
I see. That makes sense. And then the moment you said
that you can predict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the moment you said something, the malaria thing, it just went back to my human biology days where we're doing plasmodium falciparum. What kind of names you guys call? Falciparum. Yeah. You see, that's high school, but my brain is still finding them. Godfrey, talk to us a bit about your sense as well.
Well, so like Patrick said, it's not like this is something new to humanity. What is new is our experience of it. Those of us who were born, recently. Mm-hmm. If you look back into history, you read about the Black Death that almost wiped off all of Europe in around the 1300s. After that, you had the Great Plague of London, which actually led to the closure of borders, and so what we're seeing now has happened before. Then the Spanish flu that happened after the First World War, which killed 500 million people. Yes. Then I think in the late 70s, we had the first Ebola outbreak in West Africa. In 2014, we had the second Ebola outbreak. And then what is unique about COVID-19 is, like I said at the beginning, this is just a novel form of the coronaviruses we already know about. The SARS outbreak of 2003 was caused by a coronavirus. The Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome of 2012 was caused by a coronavirus.
They said this is the seventh, isn't it?
So, yeah, so coronaviruses are well known to scientists. They live among animals. I think their principal carrier is the bat. Once in a while, when they jump to humans, they mutate and cause disease. And we are now facing the most lethal coronavirus to ever cause disease in humans. Now, talking about Bill Gates, one thing people don't know about Bill Gates is that Bill Gates retired from Microsoft about a decade ago to go into philanthropic work. The billions of dollars that he has made through computers, he now invests this money into the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, whose domain of focus is global health.
Yeah.
You know that the pharmaceutical industry is a corporate industry that is profit driven, and therefore they produce drugs mainly for diseases that will bring them the highest profit. That's why you see cancer and diabetes, they are the breadwinner of the pharmaceutical industry today. Diseases like malaria and these childhood diseases that African children die from, pharmaceutical companies are not interested in those diseases because they will not bring them money. Bill Gates is the kind of person who pumps billions into the world, WHO and African governments to develop vaccines to solve these problems. When the Ebola crisis happened, the world was slow to respond the same way we were slow to respond to the Wuhan outbreak because they thought that it was going to be an African problem.
Yeah.
Bill Gates was in there conducting research, financing vaccine development, and so on. And this is how, I mean, merging his global health interventions with the thousands of scientists that work on his projects and the scientific models that they use. This is how people like him are able to predict what is coming next.
Yeah.
And in that 2015 TED Talk, if you notice, he wrote a trunk on the stage and showed that when we were expecting a nuclear war, every one of us had one of this.
Yes.
Stocked with food.
Yeah.
But the next outbreak would not be a nuclear outbreak. It's going to be a viral outbreak.
So you see, I have a lot of respect for Bill Gates. I have always had this thing in the back of my head around what's his interest in investing all his money into medical research and pharmaceuticals. What's his gain? And then the more I dig, the more I read about him, I see that he is coming from a good place.
Yeah.
It still doesn't make you not to worry. So I'd worry about now we're here, now we're facing this virus. How do we help our loved ones and our community? And I called you, Clarice, on the call. Unmute yourself. I called you on the call because you are one very compassionate lady. I have gotten to know you over time. I watch you. I watch the stuff you do. But it's sort of more heartwarming and appealing to see how you manage your autistic son and sort of just look after his welfare in a more open way than most African families would do, not knowing that you're educating and inspiring a whole nation. It's incredible. So tell me, what do you think would be the best way to help our families, not just the ones that are in themselves, you know, have disabilities or any sort of understanding difficulties, but what's the mindset of a person who wants to just be out there and help their communities?
Thank you so much once more, Dorothy, for inviting me onto this show today. Like I said earlier, when I heard of when I came to realize that this coronavirus is not a joke, I was scared. Yeah. Because most often I look at my family as, should I say, a vulnerable family in the sense, maybe health-wise.
Can I stop you for a bit, Clarice? Is someone typing? Can you mute yourself, please? Anyone who's typing, can you mute yourself? Thank you. Sorry, Clarice.
Yeah, so when I came to understand exactly what coronavirus is all about and how it affects individuals, I was really scared for my son, because the first few years of his life were not that easy. So I had initially scared about him, but I actually discovered that the more I'm getting scared, the more I'm getting worried, may somehow stop me or prevent me from giving him or giving the family the care that's really needed this time around. So I actually turned that fear into what can I do? What can I do to help, if not everybody, but my immediate family, because we kind of fall under the vulnerable groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the first things I did was I looked at him and I said, I know that you cannot wash your hands properly all by yourself. So there's something I really have to do. If you cannot wash them properly, and one of the guidelines from the WHO is to wash them well and wash them often. So I took upon myself that not just letting him to open the tap, wash his hands under, I have to physically hold his hands, put soap. Because of him being autistic, he also has sensory processing issues. So he won't like the feel of washing up liquid in his hand or hand wash liquid. So, yeah, but I still insist, and I have to physically wash the hand, make sure that they are that he's washed them and that they are clean. He's someone who is very cuddly, who he loves his kisses, and you must have seen pictures.
He's always all over you. Adorable.
Yeah. So it's a bit difficult having to change everything around now, like telling him no more kisses, no more hugs. So I said, what is the best way that we can actually make him to be able to understand? Autistic children, they process information differently from any other person, and him in particular, he communicates. He's non-verbal, so he communicates by using a communication book. It's called PECS, which is Picture Exchange Communication Systems. So when you just explain or you just talk with words, he may not understand everything. So we went online, got resources, pictures on how the coronavirus manifests itself. And for example, if you're sneezing, you have a picture of someone sneezing or someone having a higher temperature, sweating, or the thermometer in the mouth. So we have these pictures around the house. So we tell him that coronavirus, this is how it affects you. You may have a cough, you may be coughing continuously, you may be having a cold. We cannot tell exactly how much he's able to process it or to understand, but over time, I've realized that when you have no kids, then he just goes. He doesn't insist. Then I also came up with an acronym. It's autism. That was the acronym where if I have to support someone, if I have to give support to a family that has an autistic child, or maybe any child that has a special need, which are those things that I will look into. So remember, when you mentioned we came in contact with somebody in March, and all of us panicked. The first thing I did was I isolated. I asked all of us here, we stayed at home for a few days.
Since we got that alert, I haven't gone to work either. Luckily, 2 weeks after I quarantined myself from meeting that person, my work also shut down and sent all of us home to work from home. So we haven't been out. We haven't been out there. It will be good to have your acronym layered down on the screen so parents can. So if you can send it to me, type it up, send it to me, and I'll know how to edit and have it on the screen so people can use it, for vulnerable families. Who can pick on it. Thank you so much, Clarice, for your input. I want to go to Susan.
Okay.
Susan, can you get me? Yeah, it's a bit unstable. So basically, we are in the UK, and it feels like parts of the UK are experiencing this differently. We're in London, and we're going 500 to 700 deaths a day. and you in Manchester, probably you're having a different experience. Tell me a bit differently, because it feels like New York and other parts of the US, right? It feels like New York is another planet.
Yeah.
And that's how London is behaving. London is a disaster. Like, the hospital next to me has been identified as the highest cases of coronavirus in the UK. Is Mayday Hospital, and that's where I had all of my kids, like 5 minutes from my house. So I'm petrified, and I see the news every day. But you in Manchester, tell me what's happening up in Manchester.
It is a bit different when we have if we look at the number of death counts.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere is the same. It is quiet out there, Dorothy. I'll just let you know something. You know, I told you before that I work towards the airport. My train station is just 6 minutes from my home. I either Uber Eat or my husband will drop me off. And the first day they said we should stay at home, I went to that station all the way to Piccadilly. The train that I usually struggle to even have a place to stand inside, we were 6 of us in that Transpennine train. Just
in a whole train, 6 people.
In a whole train. At the platform, we were 6. The train came empty, totally. And I called my husband immediately. I said, this corona thing, are you sure that they're not hiding something from us?
Corona thing.
I said, are you sure they're not hiding something from us? I said, the train, there's nobody at the platform, and we're just 6 of us. He said, oh, you fear too much and all. But one other thing I also noticed is that we were still, even though they said we should stay at home and people were not at the platform, but in the village that I work, there were people about, and everybody was going about their business. And I think it was until a week after that people finally, I think they said, with the number of death rising and all, it's better to stay at home. But I will tell you, I've not seen my sister's face for 3 weeks. We've taken it so seriously. We speak over the phone. I've not seen my 2 sisters, Adair and Irene. And we just tell ourselves that we are vulnerable citizens. Because when you tell yourself that, it means you're going to just wear the information that is being given. You're going to take all the precautions, and you are going to be on your guard.
Yeah.
Because what I see, it's like you mentioned something about.
I think we're struggling there a bit with Susan's connection. Is it just me?
Everybody has gotten the information.
Can you see
Are
how?
you struggling?
Yeah, it's just taking a while to get you to be seen or heard. But yeah, I think I got your last crucial statement is the message is setting in, you know, it's hit home that we are all vulnerable regardless. So there's no myth about your age, there's no myth about your underlying health condition. There is no myth. The rule of thumb, just stick to all of the guidelines and do what's been asked of you, because your immune system is not a thing that you have in hand that you can measure. It would let you down if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So,
some don't even know they have an underlying issue.
Yes, definitely.
Never checked. Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm going to come to Yetna and have you talk us through some key facts, because I feel like, yes, we have had fatal, like a pandemic across the world that's impacted different countries in different ways. And the number of deaths across the world, not just in the UK, not just in the US, across the world, I think as of this morning, we had about 8 in Cameroon. So the stats that I got through, let me just see that again, was a bit of a strange one. It did say
8 deaths in Cameroon so far, yes.
Yes, so it did say 8 deaths in Cameroon. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how are we measuring? Like, for some reason, because we're just an inefficient nation, I feel like we are not doing the right things. We're not testing properly. We're not measuring properly. People are not responding to sort of the guidelines, are not sticking to the guidelines. I look at Santra Marché Mokolo online, and it's packed full. It's almost like, hey, we're having a party over here when there's a virus that's killing people.
Ignorance.
So we know that people are going to die. We know, I mean, if we're lucky, we can plank the curve underneath the predicted number of deaths that is out there, right? But alongside people dying, there's people also losing jobs. There's a massive financial impact that this whole thing would have across the world. So I'm going to ask you, Yena, because I know you have a head for these numbers. Can you just talk us through what's the worst case scenario? What should we prepare ourselves for when it comes to the economics of coronavirus?
Yeah, as I rightly said, coronavirus is going to change the world permanently. And from a financial perspective, I'm going to discuss this in three fronts. I'm going to look at it from the world perspective, the Western perspective, and Africa, sub-Sahara Africa in general. Prior to COVID-19, the financial market and the entire economy was supposed to grow about 3.5% this year, just in 2020. But with the COVID-19, right now, the world economy, they're forecasting that the GDP is going to fall to a negative 5% before this thing goes away. Again, as I rightly said, from a financial perspective, this is a talk show that I want to put it to a very simplified term so that the layman can understand.
You better do.
Yeah, so from some of the takes that I've taken from this personally, you talked about a lot of people are losing their jobs. Just yesterday, the US economy, the numbers came out, more than 7 million people filed for unemployment. That is a ridiculous number that this country has seen. The stock market has taken a more than 35% loss. Most people in the United States, for sure, and the Western world, they have retirement plans. Those retirement plans are taking a dive. Personally, I play a lot with the stock market. I invest a lot. I'm taking a hit. And I'm telling you, I know that I think I know in a way that I can manage my resources better. But I feel bad for some people that just continue to put money in there and don't have an idea of what those money managers are doing with their money.
Yeah.
Some people, for instance, I have people in the United States. I own a small business. It's called Walmart, where people call me for financial advice and stuff. A lot of people don't even want to look at their 401ks and their retirement plan. You can't be afraid of the invisible. So it is but right that you take a look, you call your financial planner. This is a time to reboot. This is a time to take a restock of what's going on. Because at the same time, there are various portfolios within your different retirement plans that they were in there when things were going right. If you leave it in there at this point, before this pandemic, before we go through this time, you won't have anything there. There is this study, a lot of people that were supposed to retire next year, they have put another 3 years to work prior to what they're gonna face financially. A lot of people don't have jobs. A lot of people right now, they don't even know how they're gonna pay their next rent or your next mortgage. Don't get me wrong, the US economy, right now they're saying that you have 60 days that you would pay and stuff like that. But I'll tell you, all of that will come to haunt you. Some people, I see the housing market, I invest in, I'm a real estate investor as well. Most houses have taken a dive. So this is a time, if you have some money saved, if you're thinking of buying a house, this is a time to go in. Interest rates are pretty low. They're closer to zero. Yeah. This is a time to either refinance on a house that you bought to get a better interest rate and stuff like that. Many people...
Can I just jump in here? So all of the stuff that you're talking is applicable to us in the Western world. It works for
Absolutely.
us. That's all the things we need to consider. Let's unpack a bit of the financial impact for Cameroon. We know that here in the Western world, we've seen how they've passed CARE Acts, there are funds going out there. There's like cost to protect certain types of businesses and people who've lost their jobs. There's all kinds of strategic teams put together to look after and to manage these different segments of people. In Cameroon, I'm just trying to understand. First of all, you can't work from home in most companies in Cameroon. There's no way you're going to take it. You first of all don't have a company laptop. Do you understand? You're not going to go home and log into work, to which employer I'm still trying to gather, but you can't work from home. So hence, you're basically not working. Now, are you being paid for not working? I'm not very sure. And then, without having even that salary, what exactly would we be faced with? Do we have a sense of what will be the best case and the worst case for Cameroon after this pandemic?
Yeah, again, as I rightly said, I wanted to break this phase between the Western world, then go to Africa. From the African perspective,
let's do Africa perspective so we can edit this for our audience, because everyone's just going to go, bush follow them. We are bush followers, we know this thing. Let's take it down to the our level,
Yeah, from an African perspective, I'll talk in general, sub-Sahara Africa, and in particular Cameroon. From a sub-Sahara Africa, it's gonna take a big hit. We haven't even started seeing the cases that's gonna come up. There are a lot of people right now with the virus. We are talking about Western world not testing. We don't even have the test kits in Africa.
In Africa,
this is something that Africa was not even prepared for. We saw what happened in Liberia with Ebola. That will be nothing when this thing is over with. Talking about Cameroon in particular, I would say our government, first of all, we don't have the infrastructure to even handle something of this nature, number one. Number two, when I talk about the infrastructure from the health side and from the infrastructure from a technological perspective, we don't have the infrastructure to handle such a pandemic. So what does that happen to businesses, to small businesses, and to mom and pops that have to go to the farm and take their product to the market, some of those perishable products? Again, it's gonna be really, really bad. Last night I talked to a friend that works at EcoBank in Douala. He told me that they have been asked to stay home. Everybody, as from 7 o'clock, you don't see anybody. He said this was unheard of, unseen, that in Douala at 7 o'clock, there isn't anybody outside. Wow. Number one, it's not as if you take your laptop and you're working from home. They haven't set up that. They don't have those infrastructure.
They don't have those remote.
The small businesses cannot function. People cannot go out. Our economy in Africa, and in particular Cameroon, it's more of a service. We have more service industries. That means either it being restaurants, it being the taxi drivers, so we provide services. Most of the jobs are service jobs in Cameroon. So if people don't go out and we don't even have the infrastructure to give people that can work from home, what does that happen to the economy? You're looking at 10 to 15% GDP dive. That's going to take a dive. So our prayer, now we are just left to prayers, because our government is not fit to handle a crisis like this, number one. I saw over the internet yesterday, some few guys, they were carrying somebody that just died of COVID-19. Again, just the way I saw them handling the situation, the spread continues with every situation that happens there. Number two, we don't even have clean drinking water. What are you talking about washing your hands regularly? In Douala, where is the water? If you turn the tap, the water that comes out from there, it's dirtier than any water you can get your hand washed with. So,
COVID-19.
Yeah. So, it's gonna get really bad. It's not to get people to fear. As my other brother rightly said, we just have to make sure that we do the best that we can. We sensitize the public, and the people there too, they have to take responsibility, because we can do all this sensitization without them taking responsibility. It wouldn't mean anything. It wouldn't mean anything. So they have to take responsibility and learn from the best practices of what some of these people are doing that will curb that curve, because we need that at this point.
So I'm going to come back to my medical colleagues on here, my learned colleagues in the medical sphere. Can I tap into you guys to help me unpack this, right? So there's a task force in every country that I have heard of. So there's a task force in America to manage this situation. There's a task force in the UK. And I see this lone soldier called the Minister of Health on Twitter, tweeting back and forth about what's happening in Cameroon. So you guys, I mean, help me out here. It's okay for the Minister of Health to be online. If Donald Trump can be tweeting, then the Minister of Health in Cameroon should also be on Twitter. Yeah? But the question I have is, while he is on Twitter, giving us all of these facts and these stats about how many have died, how many have been tested, how many are in quarantine, do we have a task force in Cameroon? Do you have a sense that Cameroon medical, system, medical core understands and is able to at least plank the curve for Cameroon by the messages they're sending out there? Patrick, are you still online?
Yes.
So just help me out here with your colleagues in Cameroon, please.
Okay, when it comes to government messages, don't trust any. Don't trust even the messages that you get from the UK government, the government of the United States, and the government of Cameroon, because most of them are only protecting their political interest. The only difference with us here in the United States is that the media is free to go in deep the information and contradict what the government is saying. But to think that what the government is saying is true is not right, because the government is lying everywhere. When it gets to Cameroon, what is also bad is that the media in Cameroon, it seems as if there are repressed. When you contradict the government, your media house can be shut down.
Yeah, there's huge censorship. So it makes it hard, yeah.
Yeah, the worst case in Cameroon in particular is that they don't have journalists that are medical experts that can actually diagnose and make sense of medical information. So they instead go ahead to help the ignorant people to spew out and promote the conspiracy theories when they attempt to make anything news out of it, because they themselves do not actually understand what is going on. So their messages are also so misleading at times. And one unfortunate thing again is that I come to realize in Cameroon that the most passionate teachers in Cameroon are actually people that didn't go to school. It seems as if the people that have nothing to offer are the most passionate people that are out there trying to let people hear what they have to say. And I'm disappointed in a way that the medical experts, Cameroonians have a lot of medical experts that are just staying silent. They don't say anything, and they just watch and smile at what people are saying, but they don't evaluate the damage that is being caused in the society at large. They have to come up and they have to say something. When you see something that is wrong, say it. That's why some people ask me that, why are you everywhere on Facebook, under every comment? Because I know the impact of any false information, especially when it comes to medical information.
And can I just jump in here, Patrick? You and I have had a couple of fights on social media, but the last one we just had, I am not going to apologize, because you and I came to see eye to eye that the Cameroon media can barely explain any of the statistics properly. Remember the post where they tallied up everything and then the tally was wrong? And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you put data in front of lay people? You have 3 lines of total dead in this town, this total dead in this town, that, and then you put total in Cameroon is bigger than the 2 that you've just mentioned.
Totals.
I was looking at the stats going, are you mad? Who puts data out in this format? So you and I clashed on that post, and we finally agreed to disagree that they've tried their best. So all we're looking for is for Cameroon to be able to try your best, medical guys. Please give the right messaging, get the right messages if possible. Write the messages, write a communique, write a brief to a media house so that the message is not misconstrued. Don't let people publish things on your behalf. Godfrey.
I'll jump in here a little bit. It's better not to put out a message than to put out a wrong message.
Exactly.
And, but yeah, so personally, I think again, this is even prior to this COVID-19, our government in Cameroon do not take responsibility on anything. No, I don't want to even go back to what Cameroon has been facing prior to COVID-19.
Yeah.
I think COVID-19. I think COVID-19 is more of a blessing to the Cameroon government than a curse, because it brings them out from what the real issue in Cameroon that they had to be resolving. They have to be talking about. So again, there is no infrastructure. We don't have a government. Nobody can say anything because they are afraid of what they can say, that they can be used against them, or they might lose their positions. Yeah. So the brother said something really nice. Everybody in Cameroon, they are afraid to speak. And the people that have gone to school, they act dumber than those that haven't gone to school, because they want to hold on to their positions and they want to hold on to their fringe benefits that they have in government settings and in government positions. The time that we come out, it's our responsibility. The time that we come out from our little holes, we can't go to school and we are afraid to make positive impact. If we can't come out,
that's the whole essence of life.
If we can't come out and make a change and impact the world in our own small ways, then it doesn't mean any crap that we have done. You can have a PhD, you can be a medical doctor, but if you don't put that into practice and make a positive impact, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't.
So that makes us all agree that we are struggling to not just communicate the impact of this whole COVID-19 to our Cameroon audiences, but also to the people in charge. We are struggling. We will have a phase where no Cameroonian will know who to look up to, and they will turn to social media because it's out there. They are going to turn to social media, yeah. So basically, the people who say you need to make positive impact, all of us to an extent need to put ourselves out there and try and provide information that is beneficial to our community. And that's probably where I'm going to round up the show, with each and every one of you telling me what you can do to help messages that are going out, especially to your audiences on social media. Because people are going to look up to you guys. They will come to your pages. They'll see you post something and they'll want to try or they'll want to read it. So tell me, Susan, let's just take the turn all over again and get back to Patrick. So Susan, what's going to happen next? As brief as you can, so the meeting doesn't cut us all out. Straight to the point.
Yeah. If an information is not correct, or say you're not sure of that information, please don't share it. Do your own investigation, do your own research, and then just make sure if somebody asks you anything, and if you really don't know the answer, go to somebody. We have a lot of friends and colleagues that are in the medical field. They will tell you, and then you can then go to that person and tell them. Don't share anything you're not sure of. People's life are at stake. This is not a joke. So I'm not going to, that's all I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarice, on to you next.
Yeah, before I share any information on social media, as far as this almighty coronavirus is concerned, I first of all think, how does this information affect me?
Yeah.
Is it affecting me positively or negatively? Is it giving me a panic attack or anxiety? I don't want a situation where at the end of COVID, some people will be, I know people are already grieving now.
Yeah.
Those who will not be grieving, I don't want a situation where we will start going into mental homes or we will start looking for mental health practitioners to take care of our mental health. If you have anxiety problems, you have depression, please avoid over information. Because yes, avoid getting too worried about this particular situation, because we can only do our best to a certain extent. No matter how much we will worry, there's really not a lot that we can do at this moment. We just have to follow the guidelines. But like I said, before I put out any information out there, I have to consider how it affects me, how it affects the other people, because I care about people's mental well-being as well.
Amazing. Godfrey, on to you.
So we have a lot to do, and fortunately, I already started doing something concrete a few weeks back.
Yeah.
When you look at COVID-19, you're looking at a new infection. The way the medical community combats infections or outbreaks is that we have a vaccine, then we have a cure, then we have the clinical management of those who are infected. But unfortunately for this case, we don't yet have a vaccine.
Yeah.
We don't yet have a treatment. We don't yet have tests available. Even in America and Europe, the new tests that have been created, they are not yet available to those who need it. So one message I want to send across to people is that these 1,100,000 people who are infected as of today are 1,000,000 cases that have been confirmed positive because either they were symptomatic or they visibly came in contact with a sick person. So this result is not an epidemiologic result, it's a clinical result. So the real picture of how many people are really infected, we don't know it yet, neither in Africa, nor in Europe, nor in America. So this is where the message comes home. It is us, community members, who have the power to stop the spread of this virus.
Yeah.
Even the countries that have the best healthcare systems, they cannot withstand this virus. So let's not even worry about African governments.
Yeah.
It is us, the community members. And so what can people do? First, we need to feed people the right information so that we can conquer the two greatest hindrances in our health system: ignorance and these myths about diseases. If we feed people the right information, we will give them the power to take action. And what is that action? Practicing the physical distancing and the hygiene measures that have been prescribed.
Put in place, yeah.
So in concrete terms, my organization, the first thing we've put out there is a mobile application called Epibuntu.
I think I saw that. Is it the blue app? It's like a blue banner.
Yes.
Okay.
So Epibuntu is a mobile application that incorporates these three aspects that I've talked about. You know, evidence-based information about the disease, motivating people to practice the social distancing and hygiene measures that have been put in place. So there's actually a game inside the app that you get up every day, you take a self-test, you screen yourself for the symptoms, and then you also screen yourself for the various prevention measures that you've practiced for that day. And the 40-day challenge is that if each day you score 100% on that test for 14 days, then you can declare yourself COVID-free. It means that your self-quarantine was actually successful.
Wow.
I have a question though. I know we're trying to wrap up, Godfrey. I know we're trying to wrap up real quick, but I have a question. How does the 14-day work? Because if I quarantine myself for 14 days, no signs, I'm asymptomatic, I have seen no signs, nothing. Then I go back out there. How sure am I that I haven't picked up something? I need to come back and quarantine myself for another 14 days. It feels like a vicious cycle, like we just keep quarantining.
So this is where behavioral medicine comes in. The goal of the 14 days is that we know that the virus has an average incubation period of 14 days.
Yeah.
So from the last day, the date of your last known exposure, if you quarantine yourself for 14 days and after those 14 days, you have no symptoms and you've not had any new exposure, then we can say with a greater chance of certainty that you are negative.
Okay.
The challenge now is for you to continue being negative. We are not saying that after
that's
the 14
confusion.
days, yes.
That's
we are not saying that after the 14 days you should go out and party. No. As long as the pandemic lasts, you need to continue being negative so that you can not be a bridge to the virus spreading into your community.
Okay, so I'm going to come back. Yeah. I'm going to come back to you to give me details of the app, give me details of how it works and all of that, because I need to append it to the video. Yedna, can I have your conclusion? Straight to the
point. Again, I want to thank you for the invite. I'm not going to talk about. We already have a lot of medical professionals here. Yes. I'm just going to give a quick advice. It's time to reboot. And what I mean by reboot, it's time to take stock of where we are and where we want to get to. Before the end of this pandemic, there will be a lot of people that will lose jobs, and the market will be in turmoil, and people will start getting back into getting jobs. Therefore, it's time to start taking those classes that you haven't taken, that you wanted to get yourself to that next level. Number two, it's time to start keeping for that emergency fund. It's not time to start going out there and start shopping because you don't go out that much. When things start getting better, you go out there and start shopping ridiculously because you miss shopping that much. Number three, it's time for you to sit and take time to spend time with family. What I mean spending time with family, this is a very unique time that we as especially younger parents, we haven't been spending time with our family. Let's take a step back to spend more time with our family. Read more books. Prepare your resume for the next job. We all here, we might lose our jobs tomorrow. Get a question and answer for the next interview. Reboot that resume. Read smart books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Smart books that will build you up for the next challenges that you may have after this virus. Don't forget about your cash flow quadrant. You have to make sure that you are strong from all perspectives, because you can make all the money in this world. If you don't know how to manage that money, it doesn't mean crap.
One quick question. Is it true that this is the best time, let's say if you have a stack of cash, to really put it in something that is less risky, like cash and stock ISA?
I would tell you that this is the best time to invest, but you have to invest very smartly. If you just carry your money there and go buy stocks are still falling right now.
They're falling,
Yes. But I'll advise you, this is the best time to put your money in government bonds and in those mutual funds that are really, really low risk. Yes. Yeah. And again, with respect to investing, this is the time to invest. A lot of people tell you, don't invest, but talk to your financial planners. Let them help you in doing that. Don't just go and get any app and start buying stocks and bonds, because you're going to lose your money.
We're not going to talk to any financial planner when we've got you.
We are financial planners.
No, we have you in the house, so we're coming to you to get our lives back on track, okay? I'm going to finish off with you, Patrick. You're on the line. Can you wrap it up for us,
Okay, let me start by trying to chip in a little bit of correction on what somebody said. That if you have an exposure and you quarantine yourself for 14 days and you do not develop symptoms, it means that you are negative. To me, if you have an exposure and you quarantine yourself for 14 days, and you do not develop symptoms, it means that there is a 20% probability that you do not have the coronavirus. My reason for saying that is that 80% of the people do not even get sick. So you can be in that big 80% of people that do not get sick. It doesn't mean that you are not. It is only a test that can actually say
that is true. That is true.
Okay.
That you are not infected. So even after quarantining yourself, if you have an exposure, quarantine yourself and go out there still treat people as if you are infected.
Yeah.
And if you have family, still keep yourself away from them, because you can be infected and you get contact with your family member that is vulnerable, and you discover that that person is sick, and then they test you and realize that you were having it and without symptoms.
Yeah.
So that's where I put a post up on social media the other day saying, do you all know that you have coronavirus? Like literally, I want everyone to live like they have it.
Yeah.
Fear, not just fearing that you're sick, but also that you would potentially infect someone without knowing. Because I don't want to be walking around being scared of people and people are scared of me, but I'm there judging that, no, but I don't have the disease. No, we all have it. Let's in the back of your mind, always think that way, and you protect someone and they too will protect you. Did you have a last thing to say, Patrick? Sorry.
Yeah, I would like to put the impact into context so that we can easily take it home.
Yeah, can you be louder if you can? Because I don't want to lose this. When I'm recording, when I'm editing, I don't want to lose this piece. So yeah, as best as your audio can be, I'd love to. Let me put my own on as well.
Okay, so when we are looking at the impact, different people are taking different messages back home.
And everybody mute so we can get him clearly, please.
We keep on looking at the number of deaths, but what are the number of deaths with respect to other diseases around? Right now, as we are speaking, the coronavirus is not the deadliest disease around. Stroke and cardiovascular diseases are still taking the highest share of deaths. Every year, we lose more than 60 million people to death globally, and we are still counting at a few thousand people that have died from the coronavirus. Even motor car accidents last year took about 1.35 million people. And taking that back home, it means that the risk and our concerns should be...
The thing just went off. It's gone.
Are you getting me? Hello?
Can hear you. Sorry, I'm on mute, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying that the various risks, because we have been made to be so conscious about the coronavirus that I'm afraid that people can forget about their individual risk. If somebody is hearing now and is lying on the bed having malaria, there's a high chance that that person will die from malaria if not care is not taken than the coronavirus.
Yeah.
If somebody is having a high risk of stroke and is not taking proper care and having consciousness that they have to continue to take their medicine, there's a high chance that that person will be the next candidate for a stroke and die of a stroke than the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So there are still a lot of things that make us to die, and the coronavirus actually is taking a very small percentage of that, and we should not be distracted, especially as individuals, because there are individuals whose various and respective risks are still very high compared to the coronavirus. The coronavirus is only a very high risk to somebody that was otherwise healthy, but to people that have minor issues, they should concentrate and continue to know that
to look after themselves.
Contribute and put them at the risk of death.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patrick. I mean, thank all of you guys for being part of this show. It feels like when we talk, do you guys feel a bit more reassured? You feel like now I know a bit more than I knew before. Yeah, so
it is, especially from the experts. It was mind-blowing. Thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you, Dorothy, for inviting me. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Clarice.
Thank you, guys.
Dorothy.
Thank you,
Dorothy. Thank you,
Mo,
everyone.
Susan,
Nice
Patrick.
meeting everyone.
Thank you guys so much. This is so
Enjoy
useful.
your evening.
Have a fantastic evening and be coronavirus unafraid.
Free.
Unafraid.
Yes.
We'll try.
And be safe. Be safe.
Definitely. And
Thank
the
you,
financial
guys.
guy will be coming to you. Thank
We'll
you.
be coming to you.
Financial, financial manawa.
We need money to go and jab. So
I
All
love
right,
you
thank you
lots.
guys.
It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
meeting
Bye,
everyone.
Clarice. Bye,
Bye.
Godfrey.